Here's how they will line up for race 2 for the Toyota Racing Series from Timaru. Mitch Evans off the pole, Englishman Alex Lynn from 2. Row 2 start for Nick Cassidy alongside Mario Farnbacher from Germany. Third in the points, Scott Pye alongside Ivan Lukashevich. Row 4 start for Australian Nick Foster alongside Wellington's Jamie McNee. And we go back to Alistair Wooten and Southland's Damon Leach. Josh Hill and Daniel Kievat from row number 6. Kotaro Sakurai and Jordan Skinner from row number 7. So there's the grid lineup for the feature race for the weekend, round 2 of the Toyota Racing Series here at Timaru, and it is the Timaru Herald Trophy on board here with Alex Lynn, carrying one of 2 onboard cameras. The other one is with Alistair Wooten and Bob McMurray, building up to another feature race, the Timaru Herald Trophy.
It is 20 laps, Jamie. I noticed just before we came to the grid there that Mitch Evans on this side of the grid, on the right-hand side of the grid, gave a huge burnout leaving the grid. That's because basically he's on the dirty side of the grid. He's trying to leave some rubber for his tyres to actually grab onto when he takes off. We'll see if it works.
Here's our second onboard camera car, Alistair Wooten, finished second in the points last season for the Toyota Racing Series. So building up to a big one. A few little dramas in race number 1 for the weekend. So Mitch Evans off the pole, and this race lined up from the fastest 2 laps from the qualifying session. Now there's a gap off the second row of the grid, and I think Mario Farnbacher did not get away from the warm-up lap lights to go out. So Farnbacher, that's important because he was right up there in the points mix as Evans gets the run down into turn number 1.
Beautiful clean start for Evans. He had a lot of trouble last year with his starts, and he's actually done a lot of practicing, I think, and he's really got it right now. But look at this little bunch in the middle here.
So big fuel loads in the early laps on board with Alistair Wooten. That'll be Nick Foster just up ahead. So the 2 black cars in the field, nose to tail.
Farnbacher would have been starting from the back of the grid there. He's had an exciting year this year so far. Destroyed 1 car at Teretonga, and now he's having to come to the back from the back of the grid.
Here's Josh Hill going through with that familiar blue and white Hill family helmet colours. Daniel Kievat looking for a run further back on board with Alex Lynn in the 3rd position.
You watch Kievat try and come through the grid here. He's had a terrible weekend so far. He's starting an awful long way back, 1 row from the back, but he really needs to get a good result. He's with the Red Bull Racing team. He's down here to learn stuff, and so far his learning has not been very good.
Well, Nick Cassidy's got the initial jump up into second from the 2nd row. He was by himself on the 2nd row with no Mario Farnbacher. He's further back, having started from the rear of the field. Back on board with Wooten, down through 1 and 2. A tricky sequence of corners at best in these nimble little Toyota Racing Series cars.
And the scene of a few accidents with the Toyota Racing Series cars this weekend. We've had just a few offs at that turn, but we've got slightly different conditions now. The track is warmer, the sun is out, the cars are very warm, the tyres are used. Hopefully everybody can stay on the black stuff this time.
Scott Pye in the 4th position. There's Jamie McNee battling with Nick Foster. Alistair Wooten currently in the 8th position. So the thing to watch here, Bob, is with Cassidy getting a good start, we see him and Evans pretty much nose to tail to fight it out over the next 18 laps.
And protagonists they've been all through their young careers, haven't they?
Yeah, they've raced together. So here's Farnbacher. So they've got some issues. He's had to peel off into pit lane. Oh, Nick Foster, a big handful of opposite lock under brakes into 3. That makes him vulnerable to the chasing Alistair Wooten.
Alistair Wooten is very aggressive this year. He's got the car is being looked after by another a new team.
Oh,
Look, he's all over the road.
That was a touch. The right front end plate on the wing and the left rear of Foster's Toyota. Kievat takes advantage of it.
I'm not sure that was more than 1 move going across the track there for blocking, but certainly the guy that lost out most of all was Wooten.
Yeah, absolutely. Damon Leach right in behind, just running a little bit wider through the exit of 5 McKissick. After a strong start in Teretonga, Damon's just struggling a little bit here this weekend.
Yes, he is. He had a bit of an accident, quite an accident at the beginning of the weekend, and he's just getting his confidence back, to be honest. There was a bit of damage to the front of the car, and I think he's just kind of getting used to it again. Oh. But look at Kievat here.
Yeah, he's looking very, very strong, trying to work his way forward. And again, Foster sideways off the exit of 2. It's cost him a little bit of exit speed through 3. Look for the Russian to try and get a run.
Good traction out of the corner for the Russian. Look, he's pulling across there once. Now, Foster should not be able to come back until he comes back into the braking area.
So Kievat's going to have a look to the outside down through 4.
That won't work, but maybe the switch over here. No, No, not quite.
Mitch Evans has just extended. He was 0.6 of a second quicker than Nick Cassidy on that last lap. The advantage for the race leader is now out to 2 seconds. Cassidy second, Alex Lynn third, who's within 0.6 of Nick Cassidy.
Kvyat is trying every different line he can think of to get past Foster. Nick Foster, a young Australian who's here, as he says quite openly, just to learn. Nothing more, just to learn racecraft. And he's only going to learn something in a moment.
Here comes Kvyat looking to the inside, down to 1. Sweet Foster's just struggled a little bit the last couple of times. Got that through there a lot better that time.
He did, and he certainly knew how to chop the nose of Kvyat away. And Kvyat hasn't got as much traction coming out of the corner this time. Maybe not as close as he was last time. Perhaps no chance of getting underneath Foster going into the turn.
7th, 8th, 9th. Damon Leach is 10th. Sakurai is 11th. Josh Hill 12th. Jordan Skinner 13th. Mario Funbacher is at least a lap down in the 14th position. So it's really going to hurt him in the points. He went into the weekend 5th in the points. There's the race leader, Mitch Evans. He's just strung 3 consecutive laps in the mid-58.5s. The best Nick Cassidy can do at the moment, his last lap was a 59.1.
Alex Lynn all over the back of Nick Cassidy here. You see how really, actually, he's a lot closer than the onboard shows you. But look how busy they are in the cockpit. Here's Alistair Wooten just going past the front straight there.
Yeah, it looked like he's got around Foster. Certainly Kvyat's got by Foster as well. So Foster losing 2 positions. The Russian now moving up into the 7th spot. Here's the peak antifreeze replay. Kvyat's gone up the inside at the hairpin.
Foster was just outside a little bit. Kvyat made sure he stayed out wide.
He's on board with Alistair Wooten. There's the Russian going up the inside now. Brake lock up there right front on Wooten's Radio Haraki car. Where did Wooten get around Foster? Must have been on the run down to 1.
Well, now with Foster going off a little bit and there going off, that's obviously slowed him down. Alistair Wooten's in the perfect place just to slide up the outside.
Nick Cassidy in the 2nd position. Last lap for Evans, a 58.6, another mid-58. Cassidy's got the hurry up though. He's just dropped in a 58.7. The gap is 3.1 seconds. Alex Lynn at a 58.9, and Scott Pye is starting to close the gap as well. So Mitch Evans and Nick Cassidy, they've got a lot in common. Both come through kart sport, Formula First, Formula Ford, now into the Toyota Racing Series. Probably the only difference between them is that Nick has been racing on the dirt at Western Springs Speedway in a 400 plus horsepower midget car. And
winning at Western Springs Speedway as well. And Mitch has been doing all sorts of things overseas. Even at Mitch's young age, he's driven V8 supercars. Damon Leach here is getting very, very close to Alistair Wooten all of a sudden. Wooten's gone backwards a little bit here.
Keeping an eye here on Alistair Wooten. He's just under pressure now from Damon Leach for the 8th position. That's something a little bit different onboard-wise. Alistair Wooten carrying an onboard. This is Alistair Wooten's feet at work in the cockpit of the number 17 machine.
The right-hand foot goes straight to the floor with the accelerator, just feathering the brake as he goes around the S's there, hard on the brake again, and then straight down on the accelerator. And that right foot should not move now as he goes all the way down the straight, building up to 230 kilometers an hour before he has to brake again, coming into the turn and go around there in 4th gear at about 140 kilometers an hour. And there he goes, the brake goes down, throttles up, down a gear. Building back up now to about 180 k's, then back down in 3rd gear around here at about 100 kilometers an hour. His mirrors are full of Damon Leach though, so he's got to be really careful going through this section. Around here in 2nd gear at about 70 kilometers an hour, and then slowly building up through the gears into 3rd, into 4th, around here at about 4th gear, and now building and building and building back up into 5th gear. Across the start-finish line in 5th gear, and Damon Leach is coming down the outside. Is he going to make it? No, Alistair just shuts the door on him, and that's at about 220 kilometers an hour. So you've got to be aware of it, everything happening here.
Look at Josh the 3rd car in the queue, yeah. Josh Hill staying with Damon Leach here, but just got a little bit sideways out at 2. Just wondering if he's maybe not in a little bit of rear tyre trouble. Just saw a groove down the centre of the right rear tyre as Leach has gone the inside of Wooten through to the the 8th position.
Maybe that little coming together that Wooten had earlier on with Kivat, the big mess with Kivat and Foster there, maybe that did some damage to his tyres.
Yeah, it was the right front corner that made contact with the left rear of Foster's car in the early laps. Heading towards the finish, Mitch Evans with a 3.7 second advantage over Nick Cassidy, with Alex Lynn just on a second and a half further back. Josh Hill, he's looking pretty racy here, trying to get by Alistair Wooten.
He certainly is, but Alistair Wooten's car looks very loose now. It looks wounded somehow, and I'm not quite sure how. It's just not very fast. Doesn't look like he's got a flat tyre. Maybe it's just deranged the steering or the front wing a little bit.
So fastest lap of the race, Mitch Evans at a 58.4. He's just dropped in another 58.6. Cassidy with a 58.7. Lynn with a 58.8. Looking back to Josh Hill, who's got a run here.
Good drive out of the corner, and that's what Alistair Wooten doesn't have. Drive out of the corner. A gear, perhaps. I don't know. You can't see anything wrong with the car from the outside.
So Josh Hill up into the 9th position, looking back into the cockpit. Alistair Wooten or Damon Leach runs off ahead of them. Hill and Wooten are both going to take advantage of that, so Leach undoes all that hard work by getting around the two drivers immediately in front. Here's the peak replay. He's just run wide on the run down to 5, rejoins, but loses 2 positions to Josh Hill and Alistair Wooten.
And luckily he doesn't lose any bits of wing or nose. Here he goes again, just over the curb, too far out, just drags it back on deck again, but it's going to ruin the tyres for the next couple of laps.
So just a couple to go. Mitch Evans, another 58.5. He's just like a robot. He's obviously got a very, very good race car underneath him. Josh Hill now up into the 8th position. There is Damon Hill looking on. He's got some animation about him. I think he's happy.
Something suddenly happened there. Yes, that's what he was looking at. That's what he was looking at. Josh has slid off and not doing a very good job getting back on it. It looks like he's stalled it now.
No, he's got it back up and running.
Damon's making some home movies there as well to show Josh what he did later on. Oh, he's on the rev limiter. Did you hear that thing going away from there? A little bit of anger.
He was in the 8th position. In the 8th position. You caught Damon Hill reacting as young Josh went off, and I think that was down off the exit of 2 down towards turn 3, obviously.
That won't be a home movie that's shown very happily in the Hill household.
Mitch Evans still, like on lap 19, he's doing 58.6s. His fastest lap was a 58.4. I don't think he's been out of the 58s for the entire duration of this second race of the weekend for the Toyota Racing Series. Kiervat now goes to work on Jamie McNee. That will be for 6th. Mitch Evans in the wet forget. Banklink Toyota, number 1. Youngest ever Toyota Racing Series champion.
Mitch really hasn't been pushed in any shape or form in this race, has he? He's controlled it. He's just dominated the whole race. He's gone away and had his own race.
Well, it's the longest race of the weekend. Last lap board now out for Mitch Evans, 58.9. So he backs it up a touch, but he's still not out of the 58-second bracket. Cassidy with a 59.0, Lynn with a 58.8, Pye with a 58.7, your top 4.
I think the likes of Cassidy, Lynn, Pye, the international drivers really have got to scratch their heads to figure out how they're going to change things to get their car to be as fast as Mitch Evans, or get themselves to be as fast as Mitch.
Well, the top 3 cars on the track are engineered by Giles Motorsport. The first of the E-Tech Motorsport machines is Pye in the 4th position. Stephen Giles, a very, very clever guy, obviously, with his background with the McLaren Formula 1 racing team, like yourself, Mr. McMurray.
Yes, and Stephen was there when I was there, and he's very serious about his racing, Stephen. But this guy's serious about his racing too. Mitch Evans, a future ahead of him.
Looking for win number 3 for the championship to further extend his championship lead. Rockets out of turn number 8 here at Timaru. He will take the victory and the Timaru Herald Trophy for 2011. A dominating performance from the 16-year-old.